Evening all, Mutton here again, and many of you who travel to Spain and Southern Europe and other parts of the world indeed will often see unusual items of seafood on the menu. And a lot of you I know are pretty scared to try them. So in this vlog I'm going to show you 5 different unusual seafood items that I think you should try. So, without further ado, we're going to go in to Tapas Areal, one of my favourite little tapas bars in Vigo, Galicia, and we're going to try our first dish here. Well, these gambasala here, prawns with olive oil, chilli and garlic, these are as tasty and fresh as I've had. Now to continue, we have sea urchin and tortilla cheese, scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs to die for. And the tortilla cheese is very, very rich, creamy and buttery, perfect for using with scrambled eggs. Not that strong, but I want to taste the sea urchins, not the cheese. And okay, I admit, if you don't like strong fishy flavours, sea urchins are not for you, but I do, and they are for me. Look at those little beauties. And as always, there's only one thing in this part of the world you can wash down seafood with. Oh yes, it's Albarino. Cheers, everybody. So I stumbled on this place by accident. The service is good, the food is good. If you're in Vigo, give this place a shout. On to our next stop, probably the most famous gastronomic street in Vigo, Oyster Alley, or the Rua Dos Pescadores. And this used to be a really famous street full of people selling their oysters and other seafood. There's still quite a bit of it left, but not as much as there used to be. So as you can see here, the street is full of little seafood bars, people selling oysters to take away. People taking their lunch, another oyster stand on my right, and more restaurants. And of course, this area is very, very close to most of the old town. In fact, if you head up that steep staircase, the old town is where you end up at. Anyway, I'm going to give the Restaurante La Marina a try, because I saw some oysters on display. And not only that, but with the staff wearing such excellent headgear, I couldn't really not eat here. So let's crack on and try our next lot of unusual seafood. And as always, we can scan the menu from a QR code, but they have brought a card as well. Look at those lovely boys over there. I can't wait to get stuck into some of them.
Marisco,
Sí.
este combinado para una persona.
Sí.
O bien este,
Sí.
o bien este. Este es bivalvo a la plancha, marisco de concha a la plancha. Sería algo parecido a esto, pero más pequeño para una persona.
Entiendo. So something that caught my eye on the menu were velvets or neckeras. They look like small crabs to me. I may well try some of those.
Crab and spider crab.
Wow. Sport for choice here, lobster.
It's possible grilled, it's possible with rice.
Okay. So there we are, got taken to see the tank of shellfish, and of course you've seen the oysters in front of us, and what they do have is a shellfish platter, which where you get a little bit of everything. Vale, conozco lo que voy a probar. Chiparones a la plancha, 6 ostras y también berberechos. No sé cuál estilo es mejor.
¿Al vapor o salteados? Al vapor simplemente es abrirlos en agua hirviendo, y salteados se va con un poquito de aceite de oliva, vino, albariño, un poquito de ajo, guindilla.
Vale, salteados. He probado muchas veces berberechos al vapor, eso es diferente.
Por variar, bien.
Sí. Y
Chipirones y berberechos salteados.
y para beber es en pena, pero solo quiero beber agua ahora sí, porque debo trabajar un poco más.
Mejor.
Normalmente mucho prefiero beber albariño con eso, pero así. This I just wouldn't be able to do myself, so it's a pleasure to watch a skilled artisan in action. I mean, the speed at which he shucks these is pretty incredible as well. But the proof of the pudding will come in the eating, whether there's any shell mixed in with the flesh. That's how you prepare oysters. And I'm glad to see they're the flat ones as well, because those are definitely the tastiest. Gracias. So, what a pleasure, and also what a pleasure to see the enthusiasm about being videoed, which often is not the case, I have to say, in the UK. And normally I would really drink albariño in this, but I'm going to just have water, so cheers. Also good to see that we're dealing with brown bread here. So here comes what we've all been waiting for. The oysters. Look at those beauties. Now, I could easily, at places like this, just have oysters and a bit of salad, but I thought I'd better get a few other things, because after all, this video is about 5 different types of unusual seafood. So whilst oysters are not actually that unusual, the flat ones are. And there we have the berberechos. Normally you have them steamed, but they had them sautéed in white wine, olive oil and garlic, which is not the normal way I have them, so of course we had to try them. And the third dish which has arrived, now obviously you've all heard of squid, but you probably haven't heard necessarily of baby squid, which is called chiparones in Spanish, and these are absolutely beautiful, caught locally I believe, and again, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, some lemon on the side, all you need. So, starting off with the squid, or the baby squid rather, generous squeeze of lemon. Always brings out the life in the seafood. Wonderfully tender. And inside I love the way the parsley and the olive oil and the fish all infused to give that wonderful fresh flavour. So, time to try the cockles. Beautiful colour. And what flavour? I do not eat these when I'm in the UK. I don't eat them in the UK at all. I'm not saying you can't find them, they can't be bad, but as we all know, they are usually served in vinegar by the seaside. So you just pick them up by the shell, suck out the cockle, enjoy the either the steam flavour or the olive oil that's inside them if you have them sautéed, as I had. And what a flavour you have. Again, soft, not chewy at all. And again, like mussels and clams, which are not dissimilar types of shellfish, they shouldn't taste gritty, and these don't. And now for the main event, the oysters. Lemon at hand. And these beautiful flat-shelled ones that I'm yet to have a bad one. I hope I don't have a bad one now. But again, the way they're perfectly shut, you can just eat them straight out of the shell. Oh well, these knock rock oysters off the park, and they give the fancy, expensive French ones a pretty good run for their money. And I believe they're local. So firm and meaty, yet again with all those fishy flavours. And people who tell you that they're like, ooh, they're like sea snot and everything like that, absolute rubbish. If you really want a shellfishy flavour, oysters are the thing that are absolutely bursting with it. And another thing is, don't cook them. Always have your oysters raw. So, finally on to the last piece, the last little piece of baby squid. So nothing rubbery here, nothing deep fried, nothing battered, just shellfish the way it's meant to be. So that's 4 down, 1 to go. Let's move on to the next stop for our 5th and final item. So, one thing that surprised me again was that the oyster shucker and vendor is actually independent of the restaurant. So I paid for the oysters separately, a bit like the octopus in another video. So he's had some famous customers. He showed me a picture of Stephen Hawkins eating it, and they were really good, and he was good at his job. So he's called Diego Oysters. You want to try them if you're in Vigo, they're really good. So for our 5th and final dish, we're going to try a place that's actually a part of a chain called the Rias Baixas chain. Now there's number 1 across the road, number 2 here. They were both founded in the 60s, I think, this one in 1965. Popular local institution. The taxi driver recommended this place to me, and I spotted something interesting on the menu, so let's go in and check it out. And you know you're in the right place when you see fresh seafood on the counter like that. So the first thing we're going to have, I mean it's not what I came for, it's not our item of seafood, is caldo gallego, very similar to caldo verde in Portugal. It's a soup with beans, cabbage, which is the main ingredient, a little bit of pork and some potatoes. It's tasty and filling. The pork rind actually adds quite a lot of flavour to this soup, and it often appears on set menus. So again, this isn't the dish I came here for either, a gratinated scallop. But I heard they do them particularly well at this restaurant. And the scallop itself, not huge, but let's see how it tastes, whether it's fresh. Oh my goodness, that is good. That is. When seafood parts as if it's the Red Sea in biblical times, you know it's fresh, you know it's quality stuff. However, what we have come here for has arrived now. Let's take a look. So again, here we have another local classic. This is called Buey de Mar, which actually translates literally as sea ox, but it is a Galician brown crab. And the crab is obviously simply boiled, and the head meat has been nicely prepared with a bit of olive oil, and I'm not sure whether there's mayonnaise in there. We'll have to see when we taste it. One thing I do know is that this type of crab is flown all over Spain and is popular all over Spain. Okay, if you'll excuse the pun, let's give this the heads up. As always, the heads of shellfish, do not throw them away. There's some great meat to be had up there, whether it's prawns, langoustines, lobsters, crabs, whatever. And obviously we cannot have such a fine crustacean without the traditional accompaniment, a glass of Albarino. Cheers. And of course they brought the usual tools of the trade to crack the crab shells open, but they have actually done most of the work here, if you can see. That is already well cracked. And as always, I just have a bit of salad when I'm having shellfish. Now time for the moment of truth. Firm and tender, not chewy, no additional flavours required here. And when seafood is fresh, you should just be able to pull the meat out of the cracked shell and there be nothing left inside the shell. That, as they say in Norfolk, is beautiful, really beautiful. Now, a lot of people always wonder, oh, should I have lobster, should I have crab? Now, for me, crab has a lot more flavour than lobster. I still like lobster, don't get me wrong, but this has a more intense flavour. But it's harder to get the meat out of the crab. A lobster, you get the tail, which is one big chunk of meat, which is why it's more expensive. But again, well cracked, fresh crab. I mean, look at how easily that comes out of the shell. And so, of course, all good things must come to an end, and this isn't a bad finish, the head meat. And heads, mutton wins again. I will warn you that the head meat does have a very strong flavour when it comes to crabs, so be aware of that if you're going to try it. I love it, but I can understand for some people it is too strongly flavoured. And there we go, all demolished, and that's with one plate of shells having been taken away already. Like say, oh mutton, what are you doing? Crab? We can have crab anywhere. Well, yes you can, but you can't have Galician brown crab anywhere, and you can't have it as fresh and tasty as it is here. Unfortunately, the battery on the microphone ran out, so I'm having to do a little voiceover. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Plenty more content to come from the summer in Spain. It's actually the last one in Vigo before we move on to fresh pastures. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. And don't forget, you can't beat a bit of mutton.